Most people think aging is something that just happens to them. That at some point your body slows down, your mind gets foggy, your energy disappears, and that's just life. But researchers who study the world's longest-lived people are finding something very different. Aging well isn't mostly luck. It isn't mostly genetics, it's mostly behavior. And the gap between people who age gracefully and people who don't, it often comes down to 5 daily habits. In this video, we're going to break down exactly what those habits are, backed by peer-reviewed science, and more importantly, how to actually build them into your life starting today. Before we get into the habits, it's worth understanding one distinction that researchers in this field care deeply about: the difference between lifespan and healthspan. Lifespan is simply how long you live. Healthspan is how long you live well, free from chronic disease, cognitive decline, and physical limitation. Most people have a significant gap between the two. The goal of longevity science isn't just to add years to your life, it's to add life to your years. The 5 habits we're covering today are specifically chosen because the evidence suggests they compress that gap, helping you stay functional, sharp, and energized for as long as possible. Let's start with the one that most people completely underestimate. Habit number 1 is resistance training, and if you're over 45, this might be the single most important thing you can do for your long-term health. Here's why. Starting around age 30, the average person loses 3 to 8% of their muscle mass per decade. After 60, that rate accelerates. This condition is called sarcopenia, and it's far more dangerous than most people realize. Muscle is not just for strength, it's your body's primary glucose disposal organ, meaning it plays a massive role in metabolic health and insulin sensitivity. Muscle produces anti-inflammatory compounds called myokines that protect the brain and cardiovascular system. And perhaps most importantly, muscle mass is one of the strongest predictors of longevity that we have. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Medicine followed over 3,600 adults and found that people with the highest muscle mass relative to their body size had significantly lower mortality risk, independent of fat mass. Grip strength, which is a proxy for overall muscle, has been shown in multiple large studies to be a better predictor of cardiovascular death than blood pressure. The good news? You don't need to become a bodybuilder. Research consistently shows that 2 to 3 sessions of resistance training per week, even bodyweight exercises like squats and push-ups, is enough to meaningfully slow muscle loss and in many cases reverse it. If you do nothing else from this video, do this. Pick up something heavy a few times a week. Your future self will thank you. Habit number 2 is something almost everyone knows they should do better, but most people don't understand the real reason why. We're talking about sleep, not just getting enough hours, getting the right kind of sleep. Sleep researchers have identified what they call sleep architecture, the structured cycling between light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep that your brain moves throughout the night. Each stage serves a different function. Deep slow-wave sleep is when your brain physically clears waste products through the glymphatic system, including amyloid beta, the protein that accumulates in Alzheimer's disease. REM sleep consolidates memory and regulates emotion. Here's what the research is increasingly showing. It's not just total sleep time that matters, it's sleep quality. And sleep quality degrades in specific ways as we age. Older adults spend less time in deep, slow-wave sleep, experience more nighttime awakenings, and have lower melatonin production. The practical interventions that have the strongest evidence for improving sleep quality in middle-aged and older adults include maintaining a consistent sleep and wake time every single day, including weekends, keeping your bedroom cool around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Sleep is not passive recovery, it is active biological maintenance, and the people who age well almost universally protect it like a non-negotiable. Habit 3 is managing your blood sugar, and this one ties into almost every other aspect of healthy aging in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Chronically elevated blood glucose accelerates a process called glycation, where sugar molecules attach to proteins and DNA, forming compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. You don't need to be diabetic for this to matter. Research shows that even people with blood sugar levels considered normal by clinical standards can show significant differences in aging biomarkers based on how much their glucose spikes after meals. The interventions with the strongest evidence are straightforward. Eating protein and fiber before carbohydrates during a meal significantly blunts glucose response. A 10-minute walk after eating has been shown in multiple trials to lower post-meal glucose spikes by 30% or more. Habit 4 might surprise you. It has nothing to do with diet or exercise, it's social connection, and the evidence for its impact on longevity is genuinely striking. Harvard's study of adult development, one of the longest-running studies of human life ever conducted, tracked hundreds of men for over 80 years. The single clearest finding? The quality of people's relationships was the most consistent predictor of who stayed healthy and happy into old age. Research from Brigham Young University found that social isolation increases mortality risk by roughly 26%, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. What blue zone communities, the regions of the world with the highest concentrations of centenarians, almost universally share is not any specific diet or supplement, it's strong social integration. In an era where loneliness rates have reached what some researchers are calling epidemic levels, making deliberate investment in your relationships isn't soft advice. It is one of the most evidence-backed things you can do for your health. The fifth habit is cardiovascular training, but with a very specific focus that most people aren't aware of. We're talking about VO2 max, your body's maximum capacity to consume and use oxygen during exercise. A 2018 study published in JAMA Network Open followed over 122,000 patients and found that cardiorespiratory fitness, measured by VO2 max, was the single strongest predictor of all-cause mortality in the dataset. VO2 max typically declines about 10% per decade after age 30. But here's what the research also shows. It's highly trainable at any age. You can meaningfully increase your VO2 max well into your 60s and 70s. The most effective training protocol combines two types of cardio. Zone 2 training, sustained moderate intensity exercise where you can still hold a conversation, for 150 to 180 minutes per week. Think of your VO2 max as your aerobic engine. The bigger and more efficient it is, the more physiological reserve you have against disease, injury, and decline. Let's bring this together. The 5 habits that consistently separate people who age well from those who don't are resistance training to preserve muscle mass, protecting your sleep architecture, managing your blood sugar response, investing in your social connections, and building your aerobic capacity through consistent cardiovascular training. None of these are revolutionary. None of them require expensive supplements or extreme interventions. What they require is consistency, and the understanding that the choices you make today are compounding quietly in the direction of the person you'll be at 70, 80, and beyond. The research is clear. Aging well is not passive. It is something you do or don't do every single day, and the best time to start is always now. If you found this useful, subscribe for weekly deep dives into the science of longevity. Next week we're covering more research on longevity science and aging. You won't want to miss it.